Well, good morning and welcome to our Over the Vast Nurseries YouTube channel. I'm David Wilson. Thanks for joining us. You know, when I'm out and about visiting our partnering garden centres and even just looking around our neighbourhoods and the beautiful gardens that we have throughout our region, that's the Mid-Atlantic and Northeastern states, I'm continually impressed by the beautiful sights I see with people growing those lovely twining vines in their gardens, the clematis. They're really impressive when you look at all of their beautiful, colourful prowess. There's rich velvety reds, bright pinks, lovely soft blues, and then there's the lilacs and of course deep purples too. And when you then consider some of the spectacular bicolour varieties with all of those beautiful colour combinations, and then throw in some of the doubles and multi-petal varieties, it's really incredible the effect that we can get from growing these really very easy to grow vines in our gardens. And what I love about them is that they take up hardly any space. Because they grow up vertically, they don't need much ground space. So even the smallest spaces, we can grow them on there. And of course, they're wonderful for training on arbours and pergolas, clothing a wall or a fence, or a structure in the garden like a tripod or an obelisk. Lots of ways that we can grow them, including also on lampposts and around mailboxes, etc. And even having them scramble through other shrubs as well. Really tremendous opportunities to be able to get fantastic effects from their beautiful colour. And you know, if there's one question in gardening that I get asked, probably way more than any other question, is how do I prune my clematis and when should I prune my clematis? There certainly seems to be a lot of confusing information out there, information that I think stems from international sources, places that are milder than our region, places where they're able to grow early flowering varieties and different groups of clematis than we grow here, and therefore that's why they often categorize them into complicated to understand groups. But we're very fortunate here in this region in that all the varieties that you're going to find at our partnering garden centres are what's known as large flowered hybrids, and that means that category is much more simple to understand. And when it comes to pruning, here in my garden, there are three simple things that I want you to bear in mind, and three simple things that if you follow along, I think you'll be able to understand exactly when and how to prune your clematis. But first, let me explain that if you take a few moments and scroll through our videos here on this channel, and also take a look at our website, and I'll put the link up here so that you can check that out too, you'll find a really nice selection of the best performing varieties that we've trialed and tested for this region. That's the Mid-Atlantic and Northeastern states, ones that we know are really good performers, and ones that we think if you grow, you will literally be able to enjoy for many years. But as I mentioned, there's a lot of confusing information out there about how to prune these plants. And it's really very simple. In fact, all the ones that we grow and you're going to find in our partnering garden centres, there are really three ways or three things that you can do to make sure you get plants that are going to be performing like these beautiful ones here, which incidentally, this variety is one called Guernsey Flute, bred by Raymond Evison. This is an amazing clear white variety with these large flowers that carries on flowering for a long time. And speaking about Raymond Evison, he's done a lot in his breeding work to make the pruning of these plants very simple. Now, what I do in my garden at home, where I've been growing clematis literally for over 25 years, the same plants, that's what I mean about the value that you're going to get out of growing these plants. And that is that I very simply prune them hard back during the winter time or early spring. Raymond says cut them back to about 6 inches. I actually get a little bit more aggressive than that, and I cut my plant back to about 4 inches or so. Doesn't really matter, 4, 6, 8 inches. But what you do is you trim back the base of the plant, and that means then that you get a lot of strong, vigorous growth that comes out and then carries its flowers, the first round of flowering, in the early part of the summer. And the reason for that is that he chops off the tops of the plants at about 6 inches, and then they grow out and flower, usually around about the Chelsea flower show time, which is the 3rd complete week in May. And then the plants, as you see, put on all of this vigorous growth, and because they're bred to be very free flowering, they carry flowers, most of the modern day varieties, all the way from the ground up through the middle of the plant up to the top of them. So that's the first thing that I would suggest you think about: cutting them hard back in the early part of the spring, or if you wish, in the winter time, and that then stimulates lots of growth. And just to explain that a little further, I'm going to take you to a mailbox that's outside my garden at home, where I've been growing that plant and pruning it hard each spring, and as you'll see, it is doing beautifully and has been for all of those years. And this is what I wanted to show you. Here on my mailbox, this plant has been here for the best part of 25 years, growing here in very well drained conditions. You'll see that each spring we cut it back to about 4 to 6 inches or so from the ground, and now all this growth has grown out, and now in early summer, as you see, it's starting to put on its flowers, and there's lots more buds coming too. So it's going to continue the display through the rest of the earlier part of the summer. It'll take a break in the middle of the summer and then come back and give a nice flush again going into the fall. You'll also see that I have wires trained here on the mailbox so that they're able to clamber up, and then when it gets to the top here, as you see, what I'm doing now is tying this in, or at least training it in, so that then it will cover the rest of the mailbox. So there you are. That's how simple and easy and how long-lived they can be, and I'm hoping to get a good few years out of that plant yet. The only exception to this hard pruning in the winter and springtime is with double and semi-double flowered varieties. You'll know those. Instead of having these large flowers with a single layer of tepals, these things that look like flower petals here on them, the semi-double and double varieties have lots of them, so they produce these big double flowers which are absolutely beautiful. But to get those double flowers, you first of all have to get the plants to establish. Sometimes that takes 2 or 3 years after you plant them, for them to get over the juvenile stage and to come to a more mature state, and that's when they produce the double flowers. And if you prune them hard back, like I was showing you with these varieties, then they will grow out and they will flower, but the flowers will be single. It takes some mature wood to be left on the plant to get those double flowers. So instead of cutting them down to about 6 inches or so, what you do with those is you only take about 1/3 or so off the top. That means then that the older, woodier stems that are in here at the base of the plant produce shoots that will then have those double flowers. So absolutely beautiful and great to have, but that is the only difference in all the varieties that we grow. So the trick with these semi-double and double flowered varieties is to prune them lighter. You need to probably encourage enough young, vigorous growth that's going to produce a good, strong, healthy plant and plenty of flowers, but not enough to kick it back into the juvenile stage, because if that happens, it's going to grow out and flower, but the flowers will be single. So it's not the end of the world if you get it wrong and you prune them back, because you're still going to get a beautiful, vigorous, free flowering plant, but just they won't have the double flowers that is the intention of that variety. So that's the second part of the pruning simplicity thing that I was talking about. The third part is that some of these varieties that flower in the early part of the summer and into the summertime, when we get into midsummer, they tend to go into a kind of semi-dormant state. They don't have that many flowers on them, and at that stage, that's when you can go in and give them another prune, a lighter prune this time, and that then stimulates new growth that then leads to renewed flowering at the end of the summertime and early part of the fall. And if you want to find out more about it and you haven't caught it yet, I'd encourage you to scroll through our videos, because there is a very popular video that I posted some years ago showing you exactly how to trim them back and do that so that you're then able to get a very nice flush of color at the back end of the season. It's called How to Prune and Train Clematis so that you get more flowers. It's here on this channel. I think you'll find it interesting because there's lots of information on there as well, including some other tips and suggestions as to how to plant them, how to train them, how to mulch, how to fertilize them, and so on. Little things that I hope will help you be able to enjoy all of the beautiful qualities of growing these flowering queens of the vine. So there you are. It's really not as difficult as it seems. In fact, I think you'll really enjoy being able to grow lots of these beautiful things so that then you'll be able to enjoy them for many, many years. This is David Wilson. Enjoy your gardening. It's good for us, and it's very good for our environment too.